Everyone beware, we are in Grave Peril. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that entrance. This is my review for the third installment in the Dresden Files series, Grave Peril. And as I have heard from a lot of friends, this is where the sort of overarching story really starts to take place, where the first two, Stormfront and Full Moon, sort of introduce Harry and sort of get you used to the world. This really starts the overarching story. And first thing I want to say is I definitely felt that. The overall plot is still a pretty self-contained story. A new character by the name of Michael, who is a religious figure, actually a knight, kind of like a Knight Templar in modern times. He literally has a sword that he uses to fight ghosts and other spiritual evil. He and Harry, actually ironically, because Harry is obviously not a religious person, have a really good friendship, and actually that was one of my favorite parts of this book, is their friendship and camaraderie. And they are working together because Chicago has had a uptick in paranormal activity, specifically from like the ghost realm or from the Never Never, which is sort of the nebulous, at least at this point in the series, other world that is like in conjunction with ours. And we learn more about it, and there's some more reveals in the book that I'm not going to spoil in this review. That's kind of the heart of the mystery, is why are all of these ghosts all of a sudden coming back and haunting things. There's a great opening action scene in a hospital that just gets this going immediately. And then actually, unusually, at least based on the first two and a Butcher series, after that initial sort of big action scene, sort of a slower build up to something else. And so that sort of threw me off for a little bit in this book, that the rhythm was different than the first two. But I like this rhythm better because it gave us more time to develop the character of Harry, to develop the character of Susan, to develop the character of Michael and his family and his world. So overall, despite there being some repetitions in like how it felt, I liked the slight shakeup of the usual in this book. I think the addition of Michael and sort of the religious aspect of this world is the strongest part of this book. I found it fascinating. I found Harry's struggle with faith, and not just like faith in a religious context, but faith in himself and in magic as a whole, is shaken really well. And I completely agree that it feels all of a sudden like a much bigger story than just these small little mystery elements. And there were some very heartfelt moments because of that have like repercussions in a larger series sense than just in this one story. So I enjoyed that aspect of it for sure, and it has hooked me enough where I'm absolutely going to keep going with the series. And one huge positive I want to say about Butcher as an author is that he has an incredible ability to enrapture and activate all senses of a reader as they are reading. He talks a lot more about smells than most authors I can think of, and about the feel of something, how things like are heard, how the sounds themselves actually are, not just that the sounds exist. And I find that really enrapturing. I think that's one of the strengths of his writing style, is just like how he draws you into something by, again, activating the senses or the sense memory that you as a reader have. I wanted to give you an example of this. So just early on in the book, I wanted a description of a house that Harry is going to, just so you guys get a feel of what I mean by this. I stopped outside the doorway. Mickey Malone owned a nice house. His wife taught elementary school. They wouldn't have been able to afford the place on his salary alone, but together they managed. The hardwood floors gleamed with polish. I saw an original painting, a seascape, hanging on one of the walls of the living room adjacent to the entryway. There was a lot of plants, a lot of greenery that, along with the wood grain of the floors, gave the place a rich, organic glow. It was one of those places that wasn't just a house, it was a home. So I just kind of did a quick search to pick something out there, so I'm sure there's a better example, but the way he describes it is very unique, right? He doesn't just say, oh, there was a picture of a seascape over there was a table, blah, 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 like not just things that are in a room, but like the feel that they came together, that the hardwood floors gleamed with polish. There were a lot of plants, a lot of greenery, and it talks about the wood grain of the floors. Grain is like a tactile thing, not really obviously you can see grain, but when I think of grain, that's a tactile thing. It was one of those places that just wasn't a house, it was a home. The rich organic glow, like all of these things evoke sensory emotions and memories in the reader, more so than just like describing something so that, you know, their mind's eye can see it. And I appreciate that in Butcher, and it goes off everything from an intimate sex scene to when he's meeting somebody new. And sometimes it's sort of a downfall, because that's one of the things a lot of people complain about this, and rightly, is sort of the way that he describes women is in that same way, and he doesn't normally do it with men, so that's a little off-putting. I still think 3 books into the series, but it's you know, it's a reflection, unfortunately, of the character, the main character. The only negative thing I really have to say about this book is that for some reason still, despite all those positives I mentioned, it just hasn't like completely grasped me. When I'm reading the book, I'm having a good time. When I'm reading Dresden, I'm enjoying it. And as I've said in this review several times, I am going to continue reading the series, and I enjoy my time with the book. But whenever I'm away from it, I don't really like pawn after it like I do with other books. Like some books I'm reading, I just want to get to it, or I look so forward to getting back down and reading in a comfy spot this book, or finding out when it happened. Dresden, I just haven't felt like that yet. It's like, if I read it, I'm having a good time. If I don't, that's fine. It's not like I'm rushing to get to the next one. It's probably going to be a while till I pick up that 4th book, even though this book was quite good. And I don't quite know why. I don't know if it's just because the urban fantasy, sort of low fantasy setting is not quite my thing, if it is sort of those small bits of chauvinism that sort of grates at me after a while, sort of subconsciously, or it's just that, again, sort of I want to get to other things more. I just don't know. But for some reason, the series as a whole, despite this being good, as I said, all those positive things are very true, and I can't quite put my words on it, is not sort of best of all time. And for that reason, I'm going to give this a long endorsement. I really, really enjoyed it, but I can absolutely understand where someone maybe wouldn't. I should also say the mystery element, it's just not something that I'm ever like personally invested in. Like, I never try to put together puzzle pieces while I'm reading a book. I just kind of take it where the author takes me. And so a large part about detective stories, obviously, is trying to find out what's next. And so I don't get quite that pleasure, and that might be what's lacking. I just don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think I'm lacking, but that is going to be my final judgment on Grave Peril by Jim Butcher. Thank you for watching. If you want to support me and the channel, please consider joining as a patron my Patreon, which I just started. Also, comment below with what you think of the Dresden Files, if I should keep going or not. Like this video, share it if you really liked the review, and definitely subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, first in, last out.